Satang Prasanga.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, and welcome to today's session. How are you doing? I pray that all is well with you and your families at this time. So today we're moving on to the second letter, and it's a letter to Satswarupa Maharaj. At that time, he was a grihasta. He was married to Jadarani Mataji. So they had just started, they just got married, and Prabhupada's first letter, it's like the father's letter, and it's a beautiful letter. It shows so many deep aspects of Srila Prabhupada, but it was very long. So I extracted like the essential part that I thought will be practical and that can help us in our day-to-day activities at the current moment. But it was a very sweet letter. Prabhupada was saying, Jadarani is a very qualified girl and she's my daughter, and I'm handing my daughter to you, very qualified man. And the community also appreciates this relationship, knowing that both of you are serious devotees. Wonderful things like that, Prabhupada is saying. And be aware of her health is not so good, so take care of her. And like Prabhupada is really giving a lot of blessings and things like that. And towards the middle of the letter, then he starts to ask about relationships or relationship in the Grihastha ashram. When is sex life allowed, and how does one go about understanding the Vedic principle of interaction between male and female in the Grihastha ashram. Very deep concepts, but Prabhupada is saying, although I'm a sannyasi, who else is here to advise you? I should not be talking about topics like this, but who else is there? So that fatherly mood comes out again, and he advises very deeply, really step by step, how to understand the Vedic interaction between male and female. And then towards the end is where we picking up the letter from. It's the last paragraph, but it's a very powerful paragraph. So if we see the letter, we see it's quite a long letter, and you can see the original type kind of, typewriter kind of print. You can imagine at this time, 1968, the letter is dated 20th September 1968 in San Francisco. So you can imagine he probably would have had typed this out himself, probably. But it's an expression of love. So just like we were saying yesterday, these letters are also an expression of love, that Prabhupada is so concerned that he replies almost instantly. Within 5 days to a week, we saw yesterday's letter, he replied in 5 days. Now you must remember, letters are posted in those days. So it's not like, you're getting an email, it just drops in immediately, or a WhatsApp message. These letters are typed, they're posted. If you put so much of effort in, you can only do that with love. And that's the point we want to bring out, that Prabhupada really loved his disciples. Prabhupada really loved his devotees, and he was concerned that they be guided in the right way and they understand things in the right way. Because who else is there to clarify things? He had to be the mother, the father, the grandfather to them. How do you talk about these kind of intimate topics with somebody you just know for 2 years? And you're really like children. They're really like little children in his hand, and they could feel his selfless love for them, and therefore they surrendered, and they were willing to apply something that's almost impossible at that time, the Vedic culture, to their lives in every way. So this is really remarkable. And Prabhupada's love for his devotees is just coming through. So we catch the letter towards the end. It's actually the last paragraph, and it's very powerful. So let's read it together. Prabhupada starts this last paragraph by saying, our relationship is eternal. So immediately he establishes this point that we are connecting now, but remember our relationship is eternal. Where is that said? Bhagavad Gita. Mamivamsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manashastani indriyani prakatistani karshati. So he says that Mamevamsa jiva loke. Bhagavad Gita says that this you are a part, the jiva is a amsa, Mamevamsa of God, is similar to God, a part of. But jiva bhuta sanatana, it's eternal. It's not that they eternally parts, that they temporarily parts and then they merge again and become one when they get moksha. No, this is jiva bhuta sanatana. Eternally they are part and parcels. They never merge and become one. So this is an immediate philosophical point as well as a relationship point that Prabhupada brings out, that we are connected to Krishna eternally. So our relationship is also eternal. This is also Srila Prabhupada sharing with his disciples that you all are eternally connected to me. It's not just that you all are becoming my disciples now. You all are eternally connected to me. I am trying to guide you out of this material world for many lifetimes. So some of Prabhupada's disciples are his intimate associates. And many were fortunate to meet Srila Prabhupada. But some are really intimate associates. And Prabhupada is trying to express that here. So he says again, our relationship is eternal, but if somebody lags behind, so in spite of our eternal relationship, one may not meet other at the destination, just like a flock of birds. So he's saying we are eternally connected, but it depends on your effort as well. That if you don't come up to the standards, that standards means we have to extend ourselves, right? Because we have a certain way in which we're doing things now, and standard means we have to come up to that level. So it's out of our comfort zone. So right until we reach Krishna Prem, those are all different levels of standards that we have to reach to. So Prabhupada is saying, I can give you the teaching, I can give you the mercy, I can give you the guidance, I can give you everything, ninefold process of devotional service. But unless you apply it, what is the value of what I've done? What is the value of Prabhupada if we don't see the transformation in his devotees? What is the value of the Vedic teachings of Bhagavad Gita if the devotee's heart doesn't change? So this is what he's saying. And he gives the example like a flock of birds. He says here, although very intimately related, every one of them has to fly in the sky by individual strength. Now this is a very powerful point that I remember reading in the first canto, chapter 15, Pandavas retire. So at that time, Arjuna had to face these cowherd men who came to plunder, and he was alone and he was remembering Bhagavad Gita at that time. So Prabhupada was saying that yes, you had Krishna's association in one of the purports there. He was saying yes, you had Krishna's association, but now you have to apply the teachings. That time Krishna was with you on the battlefield of Bhagavad Gita. Now only his Vani is with you. That time his Vapu was with you. Now only his Vani, his instructions are with you. So you have to apply it to your life. So Prabhupada there in those purports, he describes a similar example here of the aeroplane flying. And it's interesting, even yesterday in the Srimad Bhagavatam class in Vrindavan, the devotee was saying the same point about flying our own plane. I remember one of my first flights from Durban to Bombay. It was the Emirates just started the new route from Durban, and that particular day it was raining. Oof, just like I was wondering, my God, how is this aeroplane going to take off? And we're on the plane, and the plane takes off, and it's thundering. I don't know if you've ever been in an aeroplane when it's thundering and lightning, and it's the most fearful thing, because you're literally going through the clouds where these lightning bolts are striking the earth, and you don't know. It could be your lucky day, you could hit the jackpot. And one of those bolts hits the plane, and it's like swaha. You just you just finished. Nothing. They won't even find you after that. From that height. I used to think something, it's some childish mind, hey, if the aeroplane had to crash, if to go down, what can I do to save myself at that time, Of course, the mind runs that way sometimes. So I said, what can I do to save myself? Well, I got a dhoti, right? So I can invert the dhoti into a parachute. Oh, so I'll be okay. And if the dhoti doesn't work, okay, I got a chadar as well. So I'll double it up. So it should work, so that I can safely land. But then where am I landing? Am I landing, how do I know where I'm landing? What if I land in the middle of the ocean and some shark or something is hungry nearby? Oh, Mahaprasade, Govinde. He'll say, hey, Govinda, I was praying for something like this. You sent me Maha himself. Oh, so that day, that plane took off, and as we went through the clouds, a gust of wind came so heavy that it literally shook the plane off its course. And the captain immediately, usually captains are very composed people, but at that time immediately he said, everybody just, be calm and take your seats. He was like, and the air hostesses also realized, hey, this is a situation here. So that his voice alone was so, desperate. And we were lucky that, he was able to fly around the, whatever that was, that wind force, and come from underneath it and come back up. So they have their ways of understanding how the thing works. But the point being, at that time, when you're on the ground, Prabhupada gives that point, that when you're on the ground staff can help you, all the helpers there, all the people who put the plane together and make sure everything works properly, they all can help you. Once you take off, once you're up in the air, you're on your own. And when you're on your own, it's how much of preparation did you do? Did you know enough? Did you prepare enough? Are you competent enough now? Because now you really have the challenge. The challenge is not when you're on the floor. The challenge is not when you're on the ground and with everyone and everyone is around you. No, the challenge is when you're up in the air. And now, so Prabhupada gives the same example here. So my point also being that when Prabhupada speaks and Prabhupada gives examples, everything is from scripture. You can literally take out line by line and find it in scripture. This is the authenticity of Srila Prabhupada. So when he's guiding and he's directing, it's all coming from Shastra. So here he's talking about the birds. You may be in a flock of birds and you're all related and all is okay, but when you're flying up there, you're all on your own. You are with them indirectly, but you're actually flying on your own strength. He says here, if one is less strong, the other cannot help him. So if one is less strong, at that level you cannot help. So he goes on to say, one cannot help him in the sky. That is the law of nature. So long every one of us is strong in Krishna consciousness, there is no doubt. You can fly in the spiritual sky and meet together without failure. So the point will be then, how do we be strong? How do we become strong? Therefore, individual strength is most important. Individually, we have to become strong for two reasons. One, by becoming strong, we stabilize our spiritual life. It doesn't become 1 minute you're enthused, 1 minute you're not, 1 minute you're practicing, 1 minute you're not. So you stabilize your spiritual life, and secondly, you become empowered to do something for the mission. You become empowered to do some outreach and help others. So very good thing. And then it says, and that individual strength is achieved in the association of devotees also. Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Shastra Koi, Labhamatra Sadhu Sangha, Sarva Siddhi Hoy. That just a moment's association with a pure devotee, one can completely change his life. You see that with these devotees. He's a complete foreigner there. He's an old Indian man. You know, they used to have a saying in those days, don't trust anybody over 40. But Prabhupada is 70 years old. But they trusted him because they could see this person's intention, this person is driven by something else. So, by associating with devotees, that is where the secret of our strength comes. But don't think association means just with everyone. We relate with everyone, but we associate with the devotees. Means you relate. There's greetings, cordial with everyone. You greet respect every Vaishnava. Samaham sarve bhuteshu. And one who's a pandit, who has knowledge, he sees everyone equally. Vinaya vinay sampane brahmana gavihastani sunicheva swapakacha pandita samadarshana. Krishna says 5.12. That one who's learned, who's a pandit, he sees equally everyone. So you greet on that level. But where you're getting your nourishment from, you can't expect to get the nourishment from that same level. Your spiritual nourishment is going to come from those selected devotees that you connect with. Sajati sadhu sangha. Those sadhus, that sangha, that association, that is like-minded. That's where your strength is going to come from. Prabhupada goes on to say, so you can make your own judgments. So he gives a point, he gives a Shastric evidence, and then he says, now you decide. Where did we hear that before? Arjuna, Krishna did the same thing to Arjuna. I spoke all this to you, Arjuna. Now you decide what you want to do. Make a decision. Make a decision based on you knowing me, and make a decision based on what you've heard from me as well. So based on our relationship and based on the Shastra, now you make a decision. So that's very powerful. Prabhupada ends up by saying, anyway, please take care of your health, and I hope you both are well and happy. Both here is Jadharani and Satswarupa Prabhu. Your ever well wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So the classic ending of letters, your ever well wisher. So I hope you enjoyed today's class. Please join us again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.